What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. It's your favorite. It's the undefeated post-weigh-in show for UFC Las Vegas, and we have got some shit to talk about today. I'm going to be real with you all for a second. It's been a rough day. You know, trade deadlines, people getting released and stuff like that. I got all my Viking shit up here in the corner. They let my guy Adam Thielen go today. It's been rough. Been rough for you, boy. It's a good thing we got fights to talk about. Let's get straight on into this. First fight of the evening, Jared Gooden taking on Carlston Harris. Gooden made 177 pounds. He has missed weight. Now, he took this fight on like 3 days' notice. Let's be real. None of us actually expected him to make 170 flat in this spot. So, unfortunate, but they're going to go ahead and let the fight go on. It looks like they've agreed to that catch weight. He did look fine on the scales, gave his usual huge flex, really well-muscled guy. His opponent, Carlston Harris, made 169.5, and he is shredded. Harris looks fantastic. He's got abs for days, and he's much, much taller. When these guys face off, Gooden is not a small man. Carlston Harris made him look small. Harris is freaking huge. Now, right now, we've got Carlston Harris sitting minus 290. You can get Jared Gooden plus 245 as the underdog. And guys, I'm a huge fan of Jared Gooden. I love me some Night Train. I'm a huge fan of my boy Dan Levy from Half the Battle. I want to see Jared Gooden do well. I don't think a 3-day short notice fight against Carlston Harris is the right path. I don't want to lay this kind of chalk on Carlston Harris, but I do think he wins the fight. We've seen Jared Gooden take a short notice fight up a weight class before. This is not up a weight class, but you get my point. He got knocked out in that fight. Carlston Harris is massive. He's got big ground and pound. He's got that mauling top pressure. He's got opportunistic submissions. I know Gooden's slick on the ground himself, but I think he could just get out physical here in this spot. I hope the UFC gave him more than just a one-fight contract, because I think Gooden actually belongs in the UFC. He can get some good fights and some wins under the UFC banner. I just don't like this spot for him. So I got to go with Carlston Harris. How you approach it, though, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe Harrison inside the distance, but Gooden has primarily been really tough in his UFC career. I would kind of leave this one alone, quite frankly. I don't like this fight a whole lot from either side. Tyson Nam taking on Bruno Silva. Tyson Nam, 125.5. Bruno Silva matched him at 125.5. Tyson Nam stormed his way to the scales today. I mean, looked angry on his way up there, but he was taking big, deep breaths up there on the scale. He was up there and looked sucked out really terribly. Now he's 39. He's 40 years old, taking this fight at 125. He's a huge guy for the weight class, a lot of muscle, a lot of power. It's got to be catching up with him, and it looks like he's struggling on the scales. In fact, his eyes started twitching up there. Like, one of his eyes was like this. It was like way shut compared to the other one, which is a bit concerning. Obviously a tough weight cut for Tyson Nam. Bruno Silva, on the other hand, he looked great. He looked fantastic. We haven't seen him in a couple of years, so it's hard to know really where he's at, but he looked relaxed. He looked solid. He gave a good flex. It really bugs me that Nam is like a full head taller than Bruno Silva in this spot. I want to bet Bruno Silva, but at minus 190 on Superbook Sports, which, by the way, this show is brought to you by Pub Sports Radio and Superbook Sports. Bruno Silva minus 190. It's just a little too pricey for me when he's coming off such a long layoff. Now, Tyson Nam having a bad weigh-in, I think that really helps Bruno Silva. Tyson Nam is a big, big dude for this weight class, and we've talked about the takedown defense, the power. You know, if any of that is at all compromised at 39 years of age, like, this is definitely a Bruno Silva spot, but he's so small, and he really relies on that takedown. Oh, I mean, if he tries to, like, leg kick him from the outside, as long as he keeps his head movement going so he doesn't get countered on that, I think he can out-volume Tyson Nam to a decision victory. If he manages to get the takedown, I actually think Bruno Silva can probably finish this fight. I'm just not sure if he can get the takedown or not. We haven't seen him in so long. I'm going to pick Bruno Silva. I just really am not sure how this fight plays out. Take that and do with it what you will. I don't have a bet on that one. JJ Aldrich taking on Ariane Lipski. Both women made 125.5 pounds. No issues. Classic JJ on the scale for her. She's another one of these fighters that's not ever very overly physically impressive or anything like that, so not a whole lot to report there. Ariane Lipski, on the other hand, she looked pale on the scale today. And I mean, like, actually pale, like skin tone a much bit lighter than the rest of her body and her face. Her cheeks are popping out bad. She had rapid blinking on the scale. Now, we've talked about her having like tough durability issues and stuff like that. She gets chinned a lot. This looked like she had a really rough weight cut to me. It looked like she was sick and on the verge of collapsing on the scale here. When they face off, JJ stepped in on her. JJ is intense coming into this fight. I think she's really ready to turn that corner and take that next step, especially after how well she fought with Erin Blanchfield and then ended up losing that fight. I am concerned about how Ariane looked on the scales today. Now, I personally have already parlayed JJ. She's currently a minus 360 favorite over Lipski, who is now a plus 300 underdog. I think Lipski's chin issues are going to continue. I would not be shocked whatsoever if JJ Aldrich managed to like ground and pound her or just hit her with like a flush combo and death by 1,000 cuts her and get her out of there. JJ by knockout is only plus 310, which is a bit surprising to me considering she's not a finisher. In fact, she's never finished at the UFC level. I kind of think this is a prime spot where she could get it done. You remember a couple weeks back, we talked about that with Loma Lukbunme. Her inside the distance was plus 300 that night as well. And this just seems like writing on the wall. We've got a fighter who is not cutting it at the UFC level, has durability concerns, had a tough weight cut, taking on someone who is being put in a prime position to beat her with all the tools to get a very impressive highlight reel finish. I think it happens. I've got JJ parlayed up. I wouldn't hate anybody taking a shot on the inside the distance or the knockout prop. It's not something you really expect from JJ, but especially her attitude, the way she like stepped in on Ariane, I think she means business coming into Saturday. I really do. Next up, Tony Gravely taking on Victor Henry. Both guys made 136. It looks like Gravely, big smile, relaxed, no problem, tossed his number one up there. You know, for a guy that I think sometimes struggles with the weight cut, he looked fantastic today. No issues there. Now, Victor Henry, bit of a goofball, bit scrawny, bit sucked out up there, threw the horns up. I like Victor Henry. He got the Weird Al hair thing going on. Not much taller. Sorry, Henry's a little bit taller than Tony Gravely, which we expect. Tony Gravely is never taller than anybody, so you've got the tall and lanky versus the short and squat. This was a chill, respectful face-off. I am in on Tony Gravely already, everybody. I made that bet earlier in the week, plus 120. It's not great, but I mean, I think Gravely at plus odds is really the way you want to play this guy. I've kind of zigged and zagged with Tony Gravely relatively well over the course of his career. He's not a guy I want to lay minus 200 on. He's usually priced in that ballpark, but if you give me plus odds on him, on a guy who I'm not sure where he stands in the division, I think he can out-wrestle Victor Henry. I think he can have the more impactful moments, the bigger shots, the bigger strikes on the feet. And Victor Henry, even though he's been tough and durable, he is extremely hittable. Because he's hittable, I think Tony Gravely can steal moments on the feet. This thing might go a full 15 minutes. Tony Gravely might gas out and get finished in the third round. It's definitely possible, but I also think he has a chance to land a big bomb and potentially be the first guy to finish Victor Henry if he comes in with the right game plan. So I'm on Tony Gravely. I like the dog. Let's run it. Mario Bautista taking on Guido Cannetti. Both guys again made 136 pounds. Mario Bautista is shredded. Holy crap, this guy's big and gave a solid flex on and off the scales. No real problems here. Guido Cannetti looking like the Liver King up there. The guy's 43 years old and still doing it. Still with a physique that people that are 20 years old would be jealous of. Absolutely jacked. You got to give him props for that. Bautista is massive. Absolutely massive. I mean, when they face off, it is a huge size difference between these guys. I knew he was going to be larger. Didn't realize it was going to be this big of a gap. Now, Bautista is the biggest favorite on the card. He's a minus 1,000 favorite. His inside the distance price tag is chalk. You know, much like last week, we were talking about the Bo Nickel sub prop being like minus 200 over on Superbook Sports. We knew that was the outcome. Like if a sharper book like Superbook has a single method of victory prop lined at minus 200 and other books have it at like minus 140, you know that's the side. Like that's where you want to be. It's almost what we've got going on here. You've got Bautista by sub at minus 116 with that crazy size advantage, with the way Guido Cannetti likes to starch people early on in fights. I think Bautista's going to look to take this fight to the ground. I think he's going to look to do it very early. Bautista by sub is the way that I'd be looking. You got to pay a little bit of a price on it, which I hate to do with props, but look at last week with Bo Nickel. Sometimes it just works. Sometimes you just got to eat the chalk. Sequarius Dumas taking on Josh Fremd up next. Dumas made 184.5. Fremd 186 on the dot. Dumas jogged his way up to the scales. He actually looked like he's in great shape coming into this. Moved well, no problems. Josh Fremd had a blank stare on his face today. His mouth was kind of hanging open. He looked a little off to me on the scale, if I'm being completely honest. Josh Fremd is huge, though. Like, this is one of those ones where I remember he's a big dude. I forget how big. He faced off with Dumas, and I really thought they would be kind of a little bit more on the same page. Fremd is huge. Fremd is absolutely massive, so that is a little bit concerning. I tweeted this one out way early. When I first started tape studying, I got Dumas at minus 135. I tweeted it immediately. I loaded up. I have a big bet on Dumas coming in here for this fight. And the money has just flowed that way. It's just been all one-sided traffic on Dumas coming into this one. He is now sitting as a minus 210 favorite. You can get Josh Fremd at plus 180. I know I don't like to normally trust guys that don't have UFC experience coming off the Contender Series against somebody with UFC experience, but I think Dumas deserved to be a minus 180, minus 200 favorite in this spot. That's where I lined it myself, and when I saw minus 135, I had to abuse that line. Now, I've got that closing line value trophy. I am the hero. I am the king of CLV this week. It all still comes down to Dumas actually pulling off the win here for me. I do think he's going to win this fight. If you tailed me early on in the week and you beat this absolutely massive market line move, it is super easy to hedge off at this point. You can take Josh Fremd at plus 180 now, and you can lock up money in the middle. No matter who wins, you're going to make a profit. I don't hate anybody for doing that. That is an absolute baller move if you can pull that and just pocket the change, walk away, remove all the volatility from the situation. I'm riding. I think Sedriques Dumas is more athletic than Josh Fremd. I think Josh Fremd has a history of making mistakes. His takedown defense is poor. He leaves his neck out there. He's extremely hittable. I think all these things lead up to Dumas being able to have a spectacular first fight in the UFC. I like him a whole lot better at minus 135. I would not be laying minus 210 on him. I will tell you guys that right now. Personally, you guys know me. I'm a value guy. I'm a value hunter. It's easier to find on dogs for me personally, but there is value on favorites sometimes, and that's what we had here. A minus 135 that should have been a minus 180, that's value. I'm on him. I'm not laying minus 210, so take that information and do with it what you will. I will pick Sedriques Dumas to get the win. Gamblers, beware. If you missed the boat, now may not be the time to jump in. Raphael Assuncao taking on Davey Grant. Both guys made 136 pounds in this spot. No problems whatsoever from Assuncao, consummate professional, even at 40 years old. Davey Grant, he's up there looking scraggly, big old grin on his face. I mean, he always looks rough. He's one of these guys that just never looks great on the scale. Height advantage goes to Grant. Very respectful face-off between these two guys. I've been staring at this line all week. My brain is screaming at me Davey Grant, but I can't get the wrestling issues out of the back of my head. I can't get the grappling advantage for Raphael Assuncao out of the back of my head. So I want to play Davey Grant at minus 135. I've got a lot of action on this card already, so I don't know that I necessarily need to in a spot that could potentially be a little bit sketchy. This fight could go deep. It could go long. I might sprinkle on the knockout prop for Davey Grant, or maybe even a round 3 shot. I talked about that on the Monday podcast. It's always Davey Grant round 3. That's what he does. He carries his power late and he unloads on his opponent the deeper this thing goes. And we've seen that work against Raphael Assuncao. He's slowing down. He's getting older. I think Davey Grant wins this fight. I'm just not sure I really love the price tag and the way that the line is kind of tug-of-war back and forth in this spot. And with Assuncao having such a clear path to victory, I don't know that it's going to make my official card. But the pick for me is Davey Grant. The pick is Davey Grant, round 3, knockout. The next fight is Lukasz Brzeski taking on Karl Williams. We got Brzeski coming in at 245, Williams 240.5. These are some big boys. Brzeski stomped his way onto the scale today. You know, no issues there. He's got this weird elbow flex that he does. Like, instead of, like, leaving some room for the... you can't see it with the jacket on, obviously, but instead of, like, leaving some room for the bicep, he, like, flattens it. Like, you know how your, like, 6-year-old nephew, when you tell him to flex, they just kind of curl their arm and stick their elbows out? That's what Brzeski looks like when he goes up there on the scales. It bothers me. I can't get it out of my head. Now, Karl Williams, no issues. He's got a bit of a spare tire on him. He's a guy that looked like he competed at 205 pretty well. Now he's moved up to heavyweight. So he's, you know, doing the thing kind of like John Jones did. You can't carry the extra weight perfectly when you move up like that. But he was not undersized. I thought he might be a little bit smaller than Brzeski. I thought he might look like a 205er moonlighting at 265. He actually looked like he sized up relatively well, which brings me a little bit of comfort. You know, I've got Williams as the other leg in my parlay with JJ from earlier in the week. He's taken a lot of money. He's moved a full $1, Williams opened up, I think, at minus 140. He's now minus 230. So if you want to take a look at Carl Williams, parlaying really is kind of the only option at this point. Or if you want to, the decision prop. Plus 175 over on Superbook Sports. I don't mind that whatsoever because I think it'll be a wrestling-heavy attack. And even in Brzeski's last fight in the UFC, we saw that he can go a hard full 15 minutes. Even if he mixes in some grappling and tires out, I think he can survive for a full 15. So I think this thing is going over. I think it's going the full 15. I think it's Carl Williams by decision, and that's probably the way that I'm going to be looking at this thing. The next fight, Vitor Petrino taking on Anton Turkalj. We've got Petrino coming in at 204, Turkalj 205, and Petrino gave a massive flex. Like, this guy has an insane physique on him. It's incredible how much muscle he has to show off. Anton came up and he looks awkward on the scale. He's pasty white. Bro needs a tan. Gave a solid flex. You got to give him credit for trying. Now, when they faced off, though, Turkalj is actually taller. He's got a decent size advantage here on this spot. His opponent obviously more muscular and wider. Turkalj faked the handshake. He gave him the old like, this was an intense face-off. These guys are going to throw down. This fight is going to be a whole lot of fun. And it's been ping-ponging back and forth. Vitor Petrino opened up as a slight favorite, and money has come in on Anton Turkalj. He opened up like, what, plus 115, I think. We now have a pick-em, minus 110 on either side. I think Vitor could end this fight with a big power shot at any point in time. That's the kind of fighter that he is. And even on Monday on the show, you know, we had my guy Keith from Sharedog come on, and he talked big time about wanting Vitor and thinking he's going to knock out Turkalj. I just had the hairs on the back of my neck being like, I've got a feeling Turkalj goes to the grappling. I've got a feeling he extends this fight and stays safe in there. And if that happens, I don't know what Petrino looks like deep in this fight. I don't know what he looks like at the UFC level after getting grinded on for 8 minutes, and if he's still got that power in round 3. So it's a sketchy fight. It's a pick'em price tag. If you got the plus money on Turkalj, I don't hate it. I don't really want to lay a price on either of these guys, so I think I'm going to pass at this point. But I think Turkalj, like, round 3 or maybe by decision, wouldn't be half bad looks if he's able to gas out Vitor Petrino. Turkalj by knockout is plus 320, which I think is interesting. He does have some knockouts on his record. You got to wonder if he's able to submit this guy. I need to look into the grappling credentials of Vitor Petrino. He's Brazilian, so obviously he knows what he's doing, but I'm not sure if he's like a brown belt or something like that we need to know about, because the sub prop for Turkalj is juicy at plus 750. Turkalj decision plus 320. Again, I think that's pretty solid. And Turkalj round 3 at 16-1 would be maybe a little sprinkle that we can throw out there. But you're fading a big old muscly beefcake who likes to throw hammers. If he lands a hammer, you could be in trouble. Sketchy fight. I think I'm passing at this point, but it should be fun to watch. Jonathan Martinez taking on Said Nurmagomedov. We've got Martinez 135.5, Said 136. Classic Martinez. He's a big guy for the weight class. It looks like he struggles even though he's not the tallest or the most muscular. Like, I think maybe he's just got bone density or something. It always seems like he has a hard time with the weight cut. He's got those sunken in eyes, looks like a zombie kind of on the scale, but he does that every time, so I'm really not too worried about it. Said Nurmagomedov looked absolutely wiped. Same thing, classic Nurmagomedov weigh-in. These guys go back and they get their illegal IVs and fill back up, thanks to Ali, cutting the corners of what's allowed and how much fluid they're allowed to stick back in their bodies. So he'll be fine come fight night. Said went head-to-head on Martinez. He came in intense for this fight. Wasn't really expecting that. Gonna be fun. Gonna be a banger. I'm very much looking forward to this fight. Martinez not backing down. He kind of crazy-eyed back at Said. This is gonna be good stuff. Said is a minus 250 favorite at this point. Jonathan Martinez is plus 210. I'm picking Said. I hate this price tag. I actually think Jonathan Martinez is a little bit chinny. We've seen him kind of cracked before, and I think that could potentially open itself back up in this fight where Said's got plus 350 on his knockout prop. He likes those spinning heel kicks and stuff like that from outside. I could see him chipping away and getting a knockout. The problem for me, though, is Jonathan Martinez is an excellent kickboxer. He's got great leg kicks. He's got a great body kick on him. He's got power of his own, and he's the cleaner boxer. So if he closes the range and gets in tight, he's going to have an advantage over Said with his hands. The only question is going to be, can he defend the takedowns? And if he gets taken down, can he get back up? Because if he can't do those things, then Nurmagomedov can always just lean back on that Dagestani grind and work his way to a decision victory. So at the end of the day, I gotta pick Said. I think the line is wide, but I'm picking him to win this fight. Unfortunately, we lost one, folks. Ricardo Ramos had struggles on the scale again today. Came in at 154. He missed by 8 freaking pounds. So the fight with Austin Lingo is off. I was actually going to add the under on that fight. I was going to look for violence in that spot, whether it was Ramos slowing down and getting chinned again by a guy, or whether it was him having that ground advantage and styling on his opponent on the mat, both of which I thought were very possible. I didn't think it was going over, so I was going to take fight doesn't go the distance or the under 2.5, something like that. Sad it's off. We lost one. Next up, we got Nikita Krylov taking on Ryan Spann. We have a 215-pound catch weight, but oddly enough, both guys made 213 as their weigh-in weight. Krylov looked good. Abs still showing after that, couple weeks. No real issues for him. Ryan Spann looked iced up on the scale. He came up there with his chains and rocking a watch and his sunglasses. He didn't have a care in the world. No problem making 215 pounds for him. Same exact face-off as last time. Ryan Spann always does the thing where he doesn't look at his opponents, looks down at the ground. He did smirk last time somebody said something that made him bust up laughing and he lost it. This time he just kept it to a smirk. Very respectful face-off. I haven't moved on this fight yet. Last time I bet Spann, and I bet Spann by sub. I'm kind of getting cold feet on this one. I don't mind the under 1.5 at -170. I talked about it. I think this is a banger. I think it's violence. I think the extra weight helps both of these guys and their offense. I'd be a little worried that the extra weight helps the gas tank of Nikita Krylov in a 15-minute fight. If he does, we know he's going to go to the wrestling. If he goes to the wrestling and gets Spann down and just kind of grinds on him, I'm a little worried about that getting over the 1.5. With this thing going from being a main event to being a 3-round fight to being a catch weight, all these factors, it just kind of have me frozen on this one. I've got enough action on other spots. The only thing I would be considering would be Spann moneyline. And I don't know that I want to jump back in on it. At this point, I haven't made a move. I may not. I'm picking Spann. Same as last time. Probably a club and sub. Maybe Nikita Krylov makes a mistake after getting hurt, shoots a bad takedown, leaves his neck out there. We've seen it a million times. I do think Spann by sub is still definitely on the table. Spann by knockout, though, is just as easy. You go inside the distance with this one because he very easily could knock this guy out with just a single crushing punch and never make his way to the submission. But honestly, there's very valid, intelligent arguments for both sides of that fight, and I think I want to kind of avoid it personally. Co-main event, Alexander Romanov taking on Alexander Volkov. We've got Romanov 264.5, 258 for Volkov. These guys are coming in at the top of the food chain. You've got Romanov, who put the weight back on. He got skinny for his last fight. Big old flabby, happy, smiley boy on the scales today. My guy Romanov. Alexander Volkov, he's back to his old soft body nature as well, but no problems. He's massive. He's so tall. When they face off, obviously, Volkov has a height advantage here in this spot. Romanov's about twice as wide as he is, though. You've got no real movement on this one. Romanov -150, Volkov +130, and then I got the submission prop on Romanov at +250 a little earlier in the week when it opened up. Now, they didn't have it open earlier in the week on Superbook Sports, so I do need to quote you here. Superbook has Romanov by sub at +290, so a little bit extra juice, a little extra meat on the bone there for that one. So I would like that, actually. I might sprinkle just a little bit more on there. My read is that Volkov gets taken down in round 1 and never gets back up. I know a lot of people are talking about the cardio. A lot of people are talking about the takedown defense of Volkov. He doesn't have any takedown defense. He has a good get-up game, no takedown defense. So he's going to get taken down. It's a matter of can he get back up and tire out Romanov. With Romanov coming in, tilting the scales at 265, I think it's clear that he wants to sit on top of this man and never let him get back to his feet. And on top of that, a lot of people are talking about how hard it is to take down these tall, lanky guys, and that's so true. They've got that pogo stick thing, you know what I mean? If you tip them off to the side, they can put their hand down. Sometimes that foot will hit the ground before their butt does. They find ways to keep themselves up. But not with Romanov, because this guy will pick you up and he will hoist you and throw you across the cage. There's no opportunity to put your foot down when somebody does that. He'll throw you like a sack of potatoes over his shoulder and then pile drive you into the ground. You're not defending that kind of takedown with a pogo stick leg. So he's going to get taken down. Romanov is going to get on top of him, and we've seen Volkov make some huge rookie mistakes, especially with those long, lanky limbs of his, and get them snapped off before. I'm sticking to my guns on this one. It's Romanov. It's Romanov by Kimura. He's going to sub him, and I think it's going to be early. Main event time. Petr Yan taking on Merab Dvalishvili. We've got Yan 136, Dvalishvili 134.5. Petr Yan, first to the scales today, looked fantastic. He's in great shape. Merab, absolutely phenomenal, shredded. I know Merab usually is in very good shape, but Aljamain Sterling, I think, maybe has the best physique in MMA. He comes in looking insane every single fight, and I'm getting those kind of vibes from Merab. I think he really pushed himself this fight. I think they really pushed each other, frankly, because they are training partners. This is where things get interesting. Yan, like, refused to meet eyes with Merab. They got to the scales. They did not face off. They both faced the cameras. And Merab was hyped up. He's like bouncing up and down, and he's like screaming over on his side of the thing. He is amped up for this one. Yan turns around and punches him in the throat. I mean, this is some Bush League shit that Petr Yan is pulling at the UFC weigh-ins today. They almost caused a brawl because Merab was ready to go. Like, someone had to grab him and keep him from getting to Yan because these guys were about to throw down right there at weigh-ins. Frankly, I like when there's heat. I don't mind a little shove here and there or something like that, but you can't be throat punching people at weigh-ins. Like, I don't want to go hard on, like, the keep your hands to yourself thing, because, like I said, it's entertaining when these guys can go head-to-head. It's entertaining when these guys can shove each other. But you punch somebody in the esophagus, like, that could be legitimately a fight-ending injury right there. They're not going to pull this fight. It's the main event. There's too much hype around it. There's a champion on the line. They better fine Yan or something, though, because they can't let that be a precedent that they get away with. I know about a year ago or something, Dana White said that if you touch your opponent at the weigh-ins, you get, like, pulled from the card instantly and, like, cut from your division or whatever. Like, they let go of that pretty quickly. It was kind of an empty threat to get people to chill the fuck out because it was becoming something that was going on. With someone like Yan doing it, they better slap his wrist, because if they don't, younger fighters are going to pay attention to that shit. And we see people getting, like, flatlined and knocked out on the regional scene before they ever make it to the cage because they're doing shit like that at the weigh-ins. I hate that. Can you imagine having a fight like this where you're hyped up beyond belief to see what these guys look like in the cage, and then one of them, like, clips the other and puts him out with a sucker punch at the weigh-ins, and we just never get to see the real fight? Like, fuck that shit. No, that would be awful. I would be so angry. Rant over. I apologize. It bugs me when fighters do that crap. It's some underhanded bullshit. I want to see them locked in the cage. Give me a fair fight. No sucker punches. Get out of here with that shit. If I had any more need to want to go against Petr Yan in this spot, now I've got that extra motivation here. Right now, you can get Petr Yan as a minus 255 favorite, plus 215 on the underdog Merab. I already bet Merab at plus 205. Frankly, I think everybody's kind of overblowing the Petr Yan cardio and pace thing. Merab's going to put a pace on him like nobody's ever done before. Merab's going to be the one human being who can out-cardio and outpace Petr Yan. He's never faced that before in an actual mixed martial arts fight. He always finds opportunities to reset, catch his breath, do what he needs to do, because he's the one dictating the pace of the fight. That will not happen on Saturday. Merab's going to be the one dictating the pace of the fight. And while Yan is a much cleaner striker than Merab is, I don't know that he's like the one-hitter quitter that's going to put Merab out. People are making a big deal about Merab getting hurt by Magic Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes could starch a rhino with a head kick. Like, we've seen the ridiculous power that guy has. It's not the same type of power coming from Yan. Yan is a death by 1,000 cuts type of guy. Yan is a ground and pound type of guy. Yan is a wear you out and then beat you to a pulp type of guy. That guy's not going to beat Merab Dvalishvili. I've got plus 205 in my pocket. I am tempted to sprinkle more on the plus 215. I think this line is off. I think it's bad. I think there's a lot of recency bias baked into it. Y'all are about to see Merab has taken this division over. That's the Undefeated Post Weigh-In Show, folks. Good luck on all your degenerate action. And I will see you tomorrow. Good luck on all your bets. And give me a follow over on social medias at DieHard MMA Pod. I will tweet out all my final bets and picks for this card. You'll find the officials there. For any of you watching this tonight, it may be too late already, but we do have Bellator this evening. I did parlay Enrique Barzola with Impa Kasanganay from the PFL series. So if you guys get to that, I like that. It's minus 156, 1.56 units. I think Enrique Barzola is somebody you can parlay up with just about anybody who you want to. And then I did take a shot at Yamaguchi. I am fading, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name. The Viper. Just fought Mike Perry in BKFC. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. You know who I'm talking about. I took Yamaguchi minus 110. Good luck. See you guys tomorrow. Let's roll.